wake me up to another good morning, time to go. Got that smile upon my face, 'cause there's excitement in the chase, this I know.
Well, hello everyone, and welcome to another edition of Ramblin Rides with Amber. It has been a very busy February so far, and I can say it's probably been the nicest February I have ever experienced in Alberta. It is sitting right around +5 at the moment, but it has been above zero almost every single day this month so far. So that is very nice. When you come from the land of the north, usually we experience something a little different this time of year, but the snow has almost all melted. It does drop down below freezing every night, so the ground is still quite frozen, and there's a lot of ice still in areas, and as you can see out the window, there's still kind of that built-up snow in the ditches and things like that. But for the most part, it's quite nice out there. We've been getting lots of things done outside and lots of rides in and all that kind of stuff, which is awesome for this time of year. So that's another reason to put a big smile on our faces here in Alberta. I'm just headed into the city to go to some meetings. I've had lots of stuff going on, not just acting related, but just kind of a little bit of everything. So I'm very excited for things to come this summer. There's going to be some new things I can't talk about just yet, but it's been keeping me very busy. Many of you have also been asking about my renos and rental places and all that kind of thing. Those have been really keeping me busy. I'm trying to get everything finished up. I have someone moving into the rental space that I have just been renoing in a week, and so final touches are happening right now. I rent it as a furnished suite, so that's another thing I have to do in Calgary today, is finish getting some just kind of wall decor and things like that. I've already got all of the furniture and everything else that is needed to have a furnished place, but just kind of those homey touches like some wall art and coat hangers and things like that. So picking up all of the rest of that today. And what else can I talk about? The shop. We're still waiting on windows and doors. I know many of you like to ask that every time, so please stop asking, because it's just becoming one of those things that is so frustrating, but it's going to come when it's going to come. And the shop is fully functional. We have all of the main doors in. So the doors that we're waiting on are some of the barn side doors and windows. So I've just we don't really use the barn yet. I'm just using it as a storage area. I know a few of you were also asking if we bring animals into the barn, if there's stalls. There's no stalls yet. There's nothing in it. It's just all open. And I have my rabbits and my rooster in there at the moment. So they're just kind of in their own area, and the cats as well. So there are animals in the barn, but we don't bring the horses or the cattle or anything in at this point. I'm not someone who typically brings my horses into the barn unless they're sick or injured, or to tack them up if I'm going for a ride. I find that horses and larger animals do the best when they have the freedom to move all day long. That's kind of how those animals are built. They're grazers, so they cover distance. And for myself, I have no reason to lock them up. So we've got lots of space for them to roam, and they seem to do much better out there. If the weather's absolutely horrible and one of the animals is older or sick or not feeling great, then we'll bring them in for sure. But they all have access to big shelters out in their field, and there's lots of tree cover. So for the most part, they're just, horses are around here in wild herds, just out running. That's where Little Ranger came from, who's part of my herd. So they are quite well adapted to this climate, and those wild horses, they don't even get fed. They have to go find their own food. So the horses in our herd seem to do just fine, and same with the cows. The cows are all doing well. I know some of you have been asking how the pregnant Jerseys are doing. They're great. They're not first-time moms, so they kind of know the drill and what's going on. And I've been making sure they get lots of feed during these colder spells, and a little bit of extra grain here and there. So they seem to be fat and happy at the moment, which is good. and calves should be expected, I think, late April. We turned them out with the bull July, I think beginning to middle of July. So yeah, probably in a month and a bit here, we'll be maybe seeing some baby calves, which is always fun on the farm. That's one of my favorite things about spring is all the baby animals. Heartland news, I don't have anything that I can report right now. I know many of you have been asking. I have been involved in a few meetings and things to talk about stories and scripts for season 16, if that's going to be a possibility. Usually the writers start looking at ideas right after the previous season finishes filming. So they all got together back in December or before, maybe it was November, to talk about if we were going to go again, what kind of stories we would want to see. So they have been arcing that season and kind of getting an idea of what the viewers would want. But we still have no confirmation from CBC, so we're still just kind of waiting, but things look good. Things are positive. Nobody has told me that we are not going back, so I always look at that as a good thing. And yeah, other than that, it's been an interesting year for me because, as many of you know, Sean and I moved back in May now, I guess, yeah, May of last spring. So it hasn't been quite a year at our new place, and it takes a while for me especially to kind of get a good routine and a setup of pens and how to feed and who goes in where and all that kind of thing. So that has been an ongoing transition of moving animals around and moving feeders around and moving panels around, and that's why we have just kept temporary fencing at our new place, because I usually like to live in a spot for a couple years before I really decide, okay, so what works and what doesn't. Because if you just go in and spend a lot of money and time building permanent fencing, and then you realize, oh, well, the flow doesn't really work because, you usually spend the most time with these animals in this area, and now there's a fence right in the middle, and it's not great. I always recommend that too with anyone buying a new house and they just want to get in there and renovate right away. It's like, oh, I know what I want. I want this and I want this. But from my past experience, you don't necessarily know what works best for a home or a property until you've lived there for a good deal of time, and you just kind of figure out the flow. Because even though you might have a similar taste or style on how you want a house, every house is different. And if it's not a new build, like if you haven't built the house, sometimes you just need to live in it and feel out the space before you go and make a bunch of big changes. And so that's where I'm at right now. Both Sean and I spend most of our time out in the shop when the weather's not great, and then when the weather is nice, we're outside and we're still cleaning up lots of debris from all the fallen trees and things like that from the big windstorm we had earlier just before Christmas. And so there's so much to get done that I think right now we're just kind of feeling out the property and what works and what doesn't. And every day I have a different idea. I'm like, oh, this would work really well if I could feed animals like this. And it also changes with the different animals that you have. So, for example, right now we've got 10 horses there with the border. And so feeding is different, right? Because each horse has a different food requirement. So right now I kind of split horses up for what they need nutritional wise. So I've got the 2 young horses together because they both need lots of feed and some like growth vitamins and things like that. And so they're in one pen, but then I like them to go out with the bigger horses because I find that they learn the most from the bigger horses. So they all go out together during the day, and then I split them off at night. And so it's nice to be able to have certain pens that are easy access to doing that, so that you don't have to necessarily go in and halter the horses and walk them to a different pen every night. I have it so they all flow into each other, so I can just open a gate, and those 2 young horses know that that's where they get fed, so they walk straight into that other pen and they eat their food. But I think that it's good that they kind of all go out as a herd during the day so that they can learn that structure. But that doesn't work for everyone. And it doesn't work for every property too, because sometimes you just don't have the space, or it's just not conducive to a bunch of animals. So it's interesting to learn these things as you go. And our previous place was set up really well for that flow. And so, but I can't just go and copy that at the new place because it's a different setup. It's the property itself is a different layout, it's a different shape, the house is in a different area, so you can't just take what worked at a previous place and rebuild it. So that's basically what we're doing with the temporary panels, is that way I can set them up, and I'm known for this. Sean's always like, I go away to work, I come home, and you set up the pens in a totally different way. I just like to rearrange and figure out what is going to work. So yeah, that's basically what's happening on the farm. And in other news, just this warm weather is making me really excited for the spring and summer. And I know that it's only February, so here in Alberta, we don't typically get summer weather until June. So I have a little bit of a wait, but that's okay. There's so much going on here right now, and some really exciting things I can't quite talk about yet, but I feel very inspired, and that's all I can say is it's been a very productive 2020 so far, and been very busy, and I love it. I love to stay busy, and I think that it's healthy. So for all of you who need that extra kick to go and take on something that you might not take on normally, go out and just dive in. I always believe that you look at something, you look at an opportunity, and you say, okay, so what's the worst that can happen? And if the worst is not horrible, then go for it. Because I always think that it's really good to take chances, to take risks, because that's how you fuel yourself. That's how you fuel your fire. For me anyway. So here is your mid-February motivation to go out and go and apply for that job that you've always wanted to do, but you just haven't thought that you could, or you might not. Or you know what? Go out and take some lessons in something that you've always wanted to try, but it's not something that you've pushed yourself to do. Or go volunteer somewhere where you can really get to know other people in the community and be a part of something bigger. So there's so many things out there that can keep you inspired and motivated and moving forward. And I encourage all of you to try and find a way to branch out and to do something different. So with that, I'm going to let you go on this Ramblin Rides. I know that I didn't really have anything specific to talk about today, so this was very much a ramble. But I know many of you were asking for one of these, so I thought I better throw something out there. And I'm just approaching my destination soon, so I'm going to sign off. But I want to thank all of you for being a part of this community and bringing me daily smiles, whether it be funny comments or things, or even just seeing the camaraderie of the community, and now I feel like many of you have gotten to know me through social media, but you've also gotten to know one another. And that's one of the things that I find really rewarding to be a part of this community, is to see the back and forth and people that maybe have never met and never would have spoken to one another if it wasn't for this community. And now, you're all good friends. So that's really cool. And I just want to say thank you. Thank you for allowing me to be a part of this amazing, kind, generous community, and for lifting spirits across the board, because all of you do that, and it's a pleasure for me to be a part of it. So thank you guys. Take care, and until next time, keep rambling on.